Eric Axelrod from Max MRI here today. I'm going to do a quick video on how to get started with webhooks, and I'm going to demonstrate this in Flexie CRM, Flexie.io. However, this is something that lots and lots of applications support these days, especially SaaS applications on the web. All sorts of things that you can go get, all sorts of automation tools and lead collection tools and form tools and all of those things. So many of them support webhooks these days. It's really become a standard. And so I'm going to demonstrate how to actually work with the data coming off of webhooks. And we're going to do that in Flexie CRM. And the application that I'm going to demonstrate it with is Cogsworth. And I'm going to drop a link to both of these in the video. Cogsworth is it's a scheduling tool. It's a booking tool, so you can sync it with your calendar. If you want people to be able to book meetings with you, they can go in there and self-service pick a time that's available for you. They can click, they can give you their email and their name and click submit, and it'll add an appointment to your calendar and sync it with their calendar. And then what we're going to do here is after that appointment comes in, we're going to take that person and we're going to sync them with Flexie. So we're going to actually bring their information and we're going to create them as a lead. So we're going to pretend like, maybe it doesn't matter whether you're a personal trainer, whether you're a real estate agent, or whether you're a coach or whatever it is. You're going to take your calendar and expose it to the outside world and give people the ability to pick times. And as soon as they pick a time, they come in and they're immediately in your CRM. And then you can introduce them to a drip sequence or a nurture sequence or anything like that that tells you about your products and services, and it's all automatic, which is the great part. So that's the thing that you can actually do in a lot of different email and marketing automation tools these days. And I'm going to show you how to do it right now in Flexie, which is one of the most powerful ones out there. So what you see on my screen right now, this is a blank workflow dashboard. And before I do anything here, I'm going to click over to Cogsworth and I'm going to show you what Cogsworth wants. And so this is what we have right now in Cogsworth. This is our dashboard, right? And this is pretty much straight out of the box. I haven't even finished setting it up. There's all sorts of stuff in here. But what I'm going to do in Cogsworth is I'm going to go over here and click on my name. And then I'm going to go down here to settings. And most of the time you're going to find webhook information in the settings screen in whatever app that you're in, as far as public, pushing or pulling it. Somewhere in the settings is where you're going to find this. So right over here you see business, working hours, blah blah blah, and right here is webhooks. And there's also Zapier over here, but we're not going to do Zapier today. So I'm going to click on webhooks. I already have one of these set up, but I'll show you how we're going to do it. So if you notice this URL right here, it's a really long string that says, this is the actual URL of this Flexie instance that I'm demonstrating with. And then the rest of the stuff Flexie generates. And I'm going to show you how to actually do that. So right now I'm going to click back over to Flexie and I'm going to create a new workflow. And this one here I actually already created, and I'm going to click over to that and show it to you, but I'm going to create a new one to actually walk you through that process. So I'm going to say new workflow. And in Flexie, whenever we are getting data from other applications, whenever we're listening for data, we're always going to set this up as a virtual entity. And so we can, we basically have an endpoint sitting out there. That's that URL that we just saw, that's just sitting out there and just waiting for data to come in from the outside world, whatever data that is. And so I'm going to click this over to virtual entity. I'm going to hit select. And whenever we do that, this is going to bring us into the new dialog. So I'm going to say that this is, Cogsworth bookings, call it whatever you want to, doesn't matter. And I'm going to click on the workflow engine button, just like you'll do any other workflow. And if you've been in here in the workflow before, you're going to see this is going to look a little bit different if you haven't been in a virtual entity. If you're in something here if you're in a workflow that's attached to a lead or a contact or something like that, you're going to have other options here that are specific to leads and contacts, for example, or accounts or whatever. And in this case, this is a virtual entity, so none of those things exist, but we do have endpoints like Facebook and SMS messages and emails, and all of those things exist. And we can also push things to webhooks. So this is actually really easy. I'm going to show you how to do this. So very first, in the virtual entity, the only source that you can actually put for a workflow is a listener. So I'm going to put a listener on the canvas. So I'm just going to pick it up and drag it. And here it is. And you don't have to actually add anything to this. I'm just going to click add. and it's telling you here that the processing is done in real time versus some of the other sources that are out there where, you know, some of them are on timers or they're triggered by some other event. This is actually listening in real time for events as they come in. So anyway, that's the only option. So that's the one I'm going to pick. And then on the watch for events, I am going to add a dynamic endpoint. And so this is the thing that actually listens for the webhook. This is where we actually define it. And so as you notice, as I drag this on here, I can give it a name, and I'm going to say this is Cogsworth. This is the URL that it just gave me, and it generated this. Every time you drag one of these on here, it's going to give you a brand new URL. So, and that's exactly how it's supposed to work. So I'm going to click this copy button right here, and I am going to pick this up, and I'm going to go drop this over here into this Cogsworth field right here. So Cogsworth wants this thing, and I'm going to say create. And then right here I have multiple toggles, and so Cogsworth does make us enable it after we've pasted it. So I'm going to toggle this on. This is now available and working. After we've done that, now we need to, I need to tell it what to return. And so what this actually means is, so Cogsworth is going to send some data to Flexie, and Flexie is then going to acknowledge and say, yep, I got it. And then this is going to control what you do with that. Now, I'm actually not going to send anything back because Cogsworth doesn't necessarily want anything back. And in this case, it doesn't care. So I'm actually not going to do anything. I'm just going to click over here to data, and I'm going to leave this empty. I'm not going to put anything at all here, and it'll work just fine. So I'm going to click add, and obviously I gave it a name, and I just flipped over to data, and that's all I did. So now that I've got this, I'm just going to go ahead and hook it up to the listener. It's all that we need to do here. So I just drag from this point to this point and drop it, and it's connected. And now the next thing that I'm going to do is I want to create these people that are creating appointments as leads. So I am going to do an entity insert. I'm going to drag that on here, and I'm going to tell it to create a lead whenever a new person comes in, whenever a new appointment comes in. So it's going to take the person's name and email address, and it is going to pass those into Flexie, and then Flexie is going to automatically create them as a lead. And then obviously once they're in there, we can do all sorts of other things with them. We, like I mentioned earlier, we can put them on drip sequences. We can put them on nurture sequences. We can score them. We can say, hey, because you booked an appointment with me, you're all of a sudden, the odds of winning this deal are much higher than they were before because you did book an appointment with me. We can also do things like redirect them to other types of data collection forms that we can actually get out of them, and actually get more information from our leads. All right, so now what we're looking at is this is how we're going to actually populate the lead. So we do need to give this little guy a name, which we do in all the entities. So we're going to go, create lead. And here are our options. We can actually create more things than just leads. Any of our custom entities that we've created, we can create. We can also do it with deals or contacts or cases or any of those things. We can do it all from here. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select a lead. And the things that I do have to fill out are, like I mentioned, email and name. So I'm going to pick email, and I'm going to pick first name. And so under email, I'm going to click this hamburger button right here. And I'm going to go under variables. And what this is going to do is this is going to show me what is available to me from the endpoint, from the webhook. Trying to get this menu to stay up here. Computer's running a little slow. So these guys right here, these are all things that are available that we can use in workflows. And from what we can actually see right here, these are all built-in things that are related to, to be completely honest, I don't actually know what these are. So what I'm going to do is I am going to flip this over and I'm going to skip a couple of steps and I'm going to show you what this looks like once we've got it mapped. So I actually have another workflow that I already created that already has all of this in it. And so that is actually, believe it's right here. Yep, this is exactly it. So this is the same thing that we just saw. And this is just the workflow that I already created that's already working. Here's a dynamic endpoint. This one is different than the one that we just saw. Returning data, there's nothing here. And what I'm going to show you is because I've already had this one running and I've already pushed a couple of appointments into it. You can see exactly what's coming here. So you see, this is the most recent one from just just a few minutes ago. And I'm going to click on this payload right here. And this is going to show me exactly what Cogsworth sent in. So every single application is going to be different as far as the structure of this message and what it sends. In this case, Cogsworth is sending us a unique ID. It's telling us that this is an appointment create. It's telling me who the business is, which is a unique business. And in our case, this is Max MRR, and this is our unique ID inside of Cogsworth. We're not going to use any of that stuff here. I don't really care the way that we've got this set up. I don't care what the company is or what its unique ID is or any of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down here. The things that we do care about are down here. This is the information about the appointment. So we have an appointment duration, an appointment currency, the date of it, the time zone of the client, where the meeting going to be. In this case, it's a Google Hangouts URL, and when the meeting was created and when it was last updated. And then down here, this is the actual customer details. So here's the customer's name, Rick Sanchez, and the email is ricksanchez@gmail.com. And then also it gives us the reschedule links and the cancel links. And so we could use all of these things to take and actually put them in an entity or send an email. We could do that right from here and say, okay, we're going to collect, we're going to generate an email right inside of Flexie as soon as a booking comes through. And we're going to blast that out to everybody. And we can put that on a drip and we can set up our own reminders. We can do all of those things right from here. So this is what came through from Cogsworth. And where this actually came through, I'll click back over to Cogsworth really quick. And so here we are. So what I did is I clicked on public booking page. And then there's actually a link to actually go to your page that the outside world is going to see. So I went over here and I clicked. All right. What I was going to show you is here in Cogsworth to actually get to your public page. I clicked on the public booking page, and then right over here there's a visit icon. So I click the visit icon, and then that takes me over to here, which is the actual public facing page. This is what everybody's going to see. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and demonstrate it really quick. This is how your customers are going to interact with it. So if we had multiple services, they would be here in Cogsworth. If we had different meetings that we were making available, right now I only have the one. So I'm going to click 15-minute meeting. I'm going to pick a time. And, in Cogsworth, all of this is what's available. It's number one, it's synced with my calendar. And number two, it is synced with the availability schedule. So, all of this stuff is defined on the back end as far as what hours I'm allowing people to book and things like that. So, so here we are. This is what I'm going to see as an outsider. I'm going to click an appointment time, 2 p.m. and click continue. What's my name? It's also Rick Sanchez. Click OK. And I'm going to click OK. And I'm not going to give it my phone number. It's not required. And I'm just going to click this checkbox to confirm my appointment. And as soon as I do that, Cogsworth is going to send that data over. And so this is exactly how your customers or your leads are going to interact with this. And that's where this data comes from. And so if I actually get out of here, I can refresh this. This window, and we can see that entry that just came through. So I'm going to open this guy back up right here, which is the actual webhook endpoint. And if I scroll down here to the bottom, this is the whole message that we just got just a few minutes ago. Just now, this is 1 minute ago. And here's the whole message that we just got. Here is ricksanchez1@gmail.com and all of the detail that goes about with it. So that's kind of the whole end-to-end process for how we actually go through of collecting the data, passing it into Flexie, and then the next step is what I'm going to demonstrate here is how we're actually creating them as a lead. And so this one is fully functional. And the trick that I'm going to show you here is that inside of Flexie, once you have data that's come through over a webhook, it's going to make all of that available to you to pick. So I'm going to go in here to this insert lead, and I already have all of these things mapped. So now, just like in the one that I was demonstrating a minute ago, we're inserting a lead, and this is really, really simple. So there's only two things that I'm actually passing in. I have a first name and I have an email. Well, and I say this is actually not a first name. This is actually the full name, and the reason why is because Cogsworth does not have two fields for first name, last name. It's only a name. So you could have first name, last name. You could have first, middle, last. You could have four names. It doesn't matter. It crams it all into the same field. We can do more advanced stuff on the back end if we want to separate those or try to separate those and put them in the proper field. We can do that, but we're not going to do that here because we don't care. So all we do here is we check the box for what we want to do. Is I'm going to say insert first name. As you can see, it's currently on, and then I get to pick what I'm going to insert here. So we click on our hamburger menu, and then we go under variables, and this is going to open up. Let's scroll down a little bit here so we can see all the things that are available. I go into variables. This is all of the things that are available that came out of the webhook. So every single one of these things maps to something that came in that JSON document from Cogsworth. And actually, I have this open in another window so we can look at it here in a second. But what we can see, everything starts with data. And then we have the ID and the name, and I believe those are the ID and the name of the instance, or perhaps I don't actually remember, but it doesn't matter. None of that's important. The stuff that's important is when we scroll down here, I am going to pick down this list the customer details, and so this is data.user, data.staff. And our next thing here is we have data.customer, and I just jumped off of it. So we have our data.customer down here. Customer name, customer email, customer phone. If we wanted the customer ID, we would store that. And then we also have, here's the Hangout link and any other information and here's, I believe this is a rescheduled URL, all the information that we might want to take and put in an email or something like that. So I'm currently in the email field, so all I do is go down to here and I'm just going to pick customer email, and it's going to fill it for me. And actually, I just did that wrong. That was actually customer first name. Same idea though. So however we want to map this with whatever information that we're going to require from the other system, from, in our case, the booking system, whatever we're going to say is mandatory in that system, we'll go ahead and populate that here. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll back down here to customer name, and this is now customer name. Now, there are a couple of other things that are mandatory, and I believe that these are mandatory by default in Flexie. One of those is a status. The other one is a source. And so for the status, the options are, I think by default, it's, it's new or customer or something like that. And there's a few different default options that you can pick. And so what this is going to do, this is hard coded. So anytime one of these comes in, it's going to literally say status new. And if we want to change that later, we can set a workflow up to take these things and then change their status to something else if we wanted to do that. The other thing here is the source. And this is going to say, website or a meeting, or I met them in person, or they came in via email, whatever that source is. And so I typed booking page because that makes sense to me. And this is so we can later, profile them and segment them based upon all sorts of different things. And likewise, if you do have any other mandatory fields in here, and in our case we do, we've actually created intentionally some other mandatory fields. And what we're actually doing here is we're creating effectively business units. And so we're going to take this lead and assign it to a specific business unit and then go from there. We also have this thing called test mode, which allows us to do stuff like this. And I'm actually going to say the test mode on this is going to be yes, because this is how we can actually test things. We can actually test workflows without breaking anything. So we do that, and then I'm going to click update. And that is it. We have mapped our fields into Flexie. And you don't need to do anything else here for this workflow. Then now what I can do is I can click over here to our leads, and you're going to see the lead that we just passed in. And I do need to refresh this page because the last time I had this, there was nobody in here that met our criteria. There should be one in here now because I made that booking. And here is our record. So this is the one that we just created, ricksanchez1@gmail.com. And we can see it came from a booking page and it's new, and test mode and all those things. And I'm not going to cover this right now, but what we actually have here with our customer hierarchy, like I mentioned a second ago, these are business units, and we actually have, these are actually lookups to other entities. So we actually created lookup tables that says, here is your parent company, and here's your sub company, or here's your division, or something like that. And I have that here defined as demo and demo. And that's exactly what I mapped on the other side, but I actually mapped their ID. So instead of actually typing in demo, I put in the ID number of that specific lookup, and then it brings it in here. So so that is basically it. And now that they're here, we can do all sorts of things with them. We can put them on email sequences. We can do their booking confirmations right from here. We can send an email that says thank you for booking. Here's a link if you want to reschedule. If we didn't want to use Cogsworth for that or another booking tool, we can do that here. And if we wanted to actually go in here and add those things to our workflow, we could add them right here. So we've done the insert lead, and I can just as well go down here and say send email. And if we already had an email written, which I do not right now, I can just stick that at the end of the workflow. And then I'm going to pick what, SMTP account that I want to use, if you have multiples in here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and leave this to auto distribute. And then I can say, okay, do we want to do it instantly? Do I want to wait a few minutes or a few seconds or a few days, or, what do I want to do here? And then I can actually fill these things out. So I can actually do this before I even land these as a, before I even land these. And so here I'm going to say from name. This is going to be from me. The from address is going to be this, and then my to address is going to be my recipient here, and I'm going to say variables, and then I'm going to go do the exact same thing that we just did a minute ago, and I'm going to go get the data customer email, right, because I'm sending this to the to address, and then the subject is going to be thank you for booking. And then I can type an email. And then if I wanted to drop other things in here, I can go in there. Like I mentioned, we can drop the booking link and stuff. I'm not sure if this is the right one. I'm guessing it's probably down here at the bottom, the links cancel and the links reschedule. So that's my guess. So I could drop those in here, and it's going to automatically drop those in into that email whenever I do that. So whatever that unique ID is from Cogsworth. So I'm going to do the same thing. This is going to be the most boring email you've ever seen. I'm going to say to reschedule and to cancel. And you can put all sorts of things in there. We can get anything that's available. We can get their name. We can get our name. We can do all of those things. And I'm going to go ahead and click add. And now whenever we do this, this is going to, as soon as we get a new booking come in, it's going to automatically send it just the way that I told it to send. It's going to wait a day, which it doesn't really make any sense, but we can put this on a multi-step sequence if we wanted to. We can do a day, we could do instantly, a day, a week, whatever. And then that's going to be it. And then I want to save this, so I'm going to say close builder. And I'm going to hit I'm just going to hit apply. And as long as you've given this thing a name, which I called this one new bookings, then it'll be live. And the last thing that you need to do to actually use this is make sure that the published toggle is turned on. So if this is off, that webhook will not be available. You won't be able to use it. If you toggle this to yes and then save it, then you can actually go fill out your form like I just did, and it'll actually it'll actually take that data, stick it into Flexie, and then create the lead, send the email, whatever else you want to do with them about it. So So that's a really basic on how to receive data from webhooks. I'm going to do a different video on how to send data to webhooks. And we've actually got a really great example of how that works right now with the social proof app that we're using, ProofSource. And so I'll do a separate video on that. But this is a great way to actually ingest data and do all sorts of automations around how we're actually about what we're actually going to do with that incoming data from whatever that sending system is. So that's going to be it for this video. And if you have any questions, post them in the comments, subscribe to our channel, like our video, and I'll see you next time.